Uh, Today webinar is sponsored by Karen von Weger. Karen is a member, an ICF member for many years. We thank you very much, Karen, for sponsoring today's webinar. To learn more about sponsoring one of our webinars, please contact Kate Williams at the phone number and the email address provided on the screen. In my webinar today, I would like to tell you a story about a community of collaborators we have culture during the past 20 years. And the goal of that community of collaborators is to help train a new generation of biodiversity conservationists in Southeast Asia. My name is Tran Triết. I'm in charge of the Southeast Asia program for the International Crane Foundation. Over in Southeast Asia, we work only with one species of crane. We all know that there are 15 species of crane in the world. In Southeast Asia, we work with one species. There are other species as well in Southeast Asia, but the Sarus crane is the most important one and the one that really need help with conservation. It's a very tall bird. It can stand almost 6 feet tall. Considered the tallest flying bird in the world. It is the distribution range. We have 3 subspecies of Sarus crane, one in northern India and Nepal called Indian Sarus, one in northern Australia, and perhaps also in New Guinea and Indonesia. It's called Australian Sarus. The subspecies that the Southeast Asia program of the International Crane Foundation is focusing on is the eastern subspecies, which is in Southeast Asia, mainly in the country of Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. The location of the eastern subspecies of Sarus crane. Currently, the International Crane Foundation have a program in Vietnam, the Mekong Delta of Vietnam, in Cambodia, almost home country of Cambodia, and in Myanmar. The crane in this region, they own the eastern subspecies, but the 2 populations, the one in Myanmar and the one in Cambodia and Vietnam, they separate. There no evidence of these 2 populations exchanging individual. Recently, we also have a new population in Thailand that they reintroduced, the Sarus crane. I would like to have a chance to talk more about that reintroduced population to you later. That is very successful, very interesting, and very important program. This is a photo of my friend, Mr. Nguyen Truong Sinh. Took this photo in the Irrawaddy Delta of Myanmar. Working in Southeast Asia for 30 years, we realized that one of the more challenging problem for almost all countries in Southeast Asia is to have people with good knowledge and good skill in the biodiversity conservation field. You see this photo, it was me in 1994, taken at the campus of the University of Wisconsin in Madison. This is the first year that I came to the United States as a graduate student, sponsored by the International Crane Foundation. You can imagine that back at that time, the US and Vietnam had no formal relationship. Perhaps the 2 countries were still considered each other enemies. Even in that difficult situation, ICF was still able to bring me to the US to receive a very excellent education. And here I am, almost 30 years after, I'm still working in the conservation field, helping Vietnam and many other countries in Southeast Asia. So example like myself is extremely rare, as you can imagine. My study at UW was last 6 years, and it cost ICF probably a lot of money and also a lot of effort to secure funding for that long-term commitment. So we see the need of the region to have people well trained to work in conservation field, but to send students from Southeast Asian country, let's say to United States or to some other country with advanced training program, that's not easy and also very expensive. ICF is working in many countries in the world, and we see that that issue in almost all other countries where we work. And ICF has a long history of supporting students. We keep a database of who we work with, the student we work with, and for when ICF started in 1973 to the year 2020, I look at the database and I count 106 graduate students from many countries who ICF either directly sponsor, financially sponsor, or work with our staff as a supervisor. 36 of those 106 students were graduate, had taken graduate study at UW-Madison. Besides this group, we have another 64 preceptorship and intern in conservation medicine and veterinary science. This is a program ICF collaborated with the University of Wisconsin Medicine Vet School. So we have a long history with working with students, and we understand the importance of giving good training, good education for the people in the country where we work with. Back to Southeast Asia. So as I just mentioned, sending students from Southeast Asian country to other country for training is expensive and not always easy to do. And we work in the country, and we realize that even though one single university in the region may not have enough facility, enough teaching staff, laboratory, etc., for excellent educational program in conservation biology. But their expertise available almost everywhere. So if we can somehow bring all of those resources together, we may be able to provide very high quality training at an acceptable price. It's not too expensive. And with that thinking in mind, we start talking with our colleagues in the region. And in 2002, a network of universities in Southeast Asian country was established, and the focus of that network is on wetland ecosystem. So we plan to provide training to researcher and lecturer of those university in wetland ecology and management, and help them to develop their career related to wetland conservation. Initially, there were 8 universities joined the network from 4 countries: Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam. And over the year, more and more universities in the region joining the network. And by the year 2016, the network increased to 24 member universities, including a university in China, in Myanmar, and in Malaysia. This is a simple map showing the location of those member university in Southeast Asia region. So we have 4 universities from Cambodia. We have 2 from Yunnan province in China. We have 2 from Laos, 1 from Malaysia, and the country of Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. Each country have 5 members in this network. We set out with the goal of provide training, high quality training. So the way we organize our regional training courses, that each country will host, take turn in hosting the training. So we have, this year we have a training course in Cambodia. Next year that will be either in Myanmar or Thailand or Vietnam. So we rotate the host, and by that way we can expose our students to different wetland environment, different socio-economic issue problem, so that the people can have a wider perspective about wetland ecology and wetland management for the region. Those photos is the few example of the training that we have done over the year. During the past 20 years, we did 20 regional training courses for providing the training for 480 alumni of the network. They're all coming from all 24 member university that I mentioned before. We even have one training organized in Yunnan province in 2018. The way we provide training for our students is very hands-on. We focus on field practice, learning right in the field. You spend a minimal amount of time in a lecture room, and we spend a lot of time out in the field. Every training course, we look at the wetland ecosystem as a whole. Particularly, we look at wetland soil, water, wildlife, and of course people, how people would interact with all of the important components of the wetlands. We want to understand the ecosystem services and how those products and services can be used widely by the community for their benefit. We visit many important wetlands in the region as our nature laboratory. Here just some example of the wetland where we did our field study. You can see that is spread all over the region. The last 3 years, we shift our intention from training a researcher and lecturer from the university to training the people who directly manage protected wetland. The last 3 years, we organized 5 training workshops for wetland manager, and we provide training for 160 wetland manager. So altogether, we now have more than 600 alumni in our network. This training program, we partner with IUCN Asia to deliver the training. Not only organizing regional training course, the network also facilitating regional research project, large research project that involve many countries. I will give you some example. This is a study on persistent organic pollutants. This is the thing that very toxic and it can stay very long in the environment after it's were released. Often things coming from pesticides and herbicides. And those substances, they have been banned long ago, but still in the region, some still stay in the environment because they take very long time to break down, and also the illegal use of these things that's still going on. The study was done in 5 Mekong countries, from Myanmar to Vietnam. We study more than 500 wetlands in 5 countries. 10 universities in Southeast Asia participated in this research program. and also 3 research institutions in the United States, including U.S. Geological Survey and other research institutions in Louisiana. The study that participated by 120 researchers and assistants in the region. So it's a pretty big research program. It ran for 3 years, and the program was funded by U.S. Department of State. This is a publication of the research program published by U.S. Geological Survey. This is a map of the sampling site. This is 531 wetland site that we study. Whenever I look at this map, I feel so proud because it's not easy. It's very few study worldwide that can sample this many wetlands in this difficult region. And this is the map of one substance that we study, the DDT. This substance may be very familiar with you. This is banned a long time ago, but still the residual of DDT can still be a big problem in the region. This is another study that related to climate change. We set up a network of to monitor surface elevation of wetland across Southeast Asia, from Myanmar to Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam, also Malaysia, to monitor how the surface of the wetland would be relative to the sea level. So this study had very important implication in understanding how climate change would affect this region. Some of the data were published in the journal Nature in 2017, and the monitoring is still going on. We're still collecting data from those monitoring stations that we have set up. This is the most recent study that we did just last year. We did a study on invasive alien species in wetland of the Mekong River Basin. The map on the left shows you the location of the 12 important wetlands. There's a wetland of international importance called the Ramsar site. 3 sites for each of the 4 countries. So we study 12 Ramsar sites in 4 countries, and we focus on the 4 most important invasive species. 50 researchers from 4 countries participated in this study. And also we have partners here in the United States joining with this study. After the study, we organized an international symposium in December 2021 to discuss the result and also to come up with a set of recommendations on invasive species management for the region. I would like to introduce these wonderful people with you. Mr. Kim Soben from Cambodia at the Royal University of Agriculture, Ms. Somvilai from the National University of Laos, Dr. Pia Khan from Mahidol University in Thailand, and Dr. Kim Jung, the University of Science in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. All 4 of them was our student before in the regional training program that we organized. And last year in the invasive alien species study, they were the country team leader. They lead their country team to successfully complete the project within a very short time, in 6 months, and under extremely difficult conditions. You know, the COVID was rampant across the region last year, and they still managed to get the study done successfully in a very short time and deliver an excellent result. So I am so proud of these young people. By now, you probably agree with me that the work that we did is important for the region, but would it have any good for the Crane Foundation? yes, the network really a good asset for the CRAN Foundation as well. It's not just us helping them, but they are helping us in a big way. I would like to tell the story in Myanmar. The network had 4 university members in Myanmar: Mandalay University, Agricultural University, University of Forestry, and Yangon University. Yangon University, the oldest university and the largest in Myanmar. So we have 4 members in Myanmar. And I would like to introduce these 2 young person to you. Dr. Myo Sanda Win is an ornithologist at Yangon University, and Mr. Tin Aung Thun, we call him Kolei, is our new project manager in Myanmar. He is our staff, ICF staff. He leads our program in Myanmar. Mio and Kolei were also our students before, and now they are the leaders in nature conservation in their country. Dr. Myo Win is the leader of the Myanmar CRAN team at Yangon University, and Kolei is the ICF program manager for our Myanmar program. We all know what happened in Myanmar is very sad. And, the country is still under extremely difficult situation right now, both with COVID and with the security problem that happened after the military coup. Even under those very difficult situations, last year, under the leadership of Mio and Kolei, we completed a very successful SARAS CRAN monitoring program in the Irrawaddy Delta, where about 90% of SARAS CRAN living in Myanmar. So Kolei and Mio, because of all of the travel restriction caused by the pandemic and also the security, military control, for last part of the year, were not possible for them to travel to the Irrawaddy Delta to conduct the survey or the monitoring activity. The way they did it, that they form a network of local volunteers, the villager, farmer, even children, to help visit the CRAN nest site and collect the information. They train them by phone, so these volunteers know how to record the location of the CRAN nest, what kind of data that they can take note, and how to send back the data to Mio and Kolei in Yangon. And they did wonderfully, because if we do our monitoring, we may be able to visit a nest once a month. But for local people, they can visit many times a month, even daily. They can go out and they can take a look at the CRAN and see what happened. We have been collecting wonderful data, very detailed data, much more than we were able to do before. And because of that, we now can establish a very, I think, very accurate breeding success rate, and also to link CRAN information with the habitat information, and to prove the importance of this type of agricultural ecosystem that is still supporting very healthy wildlife community, including SARAS CRAN. All of these photos were taken by local farmer, local volunteer. You see, they can take very high quality photos, and we train them so that they know how to approach CRAN site without causing much of disturbance to the CRAN. In conclusion, during the past 20 years, we have seen that by creating this community of collaborators, it provides an effective mechanism for regional cooperation in research, training, and in conservation for Southeast Asia. It's a very cost-effective way to do education, to do training, and also to do research projects at the regional scale. And the network also serves to connect wetland researcher, educator, and practitioner of the Mekong region with the world. Many of the regional research programs that I just mentioned to you, a strong collaboration between Southeast Asian researcher and researcher here in the United States is an example. And the network also very helpful for advancing ICF mission in Southeast Asia. That's all of the story I want to tell you today. If you have any question, please let me know.
Great, Trit, that was so amazing. Thank you so much for that wonderful talk. Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Jones, and I work in our Education and Design Department here at the International Crane Foundation. This story really connects with me a lot because I started here as an intern right out of college, and to know that the International Crane Foundation has empowering future leaders as one of their core strategies is just so inspiring. And thank you all the work you've done, Trit, with connecting students in Southeast Asia and beyond. We got some great questions in, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to continue to put those in the Q&A box, and we will continue to pull those for this discussion. Yeah, so let's see, where do we want to start? So you obviously have worked with a lot of these students within the Mekong Network and within a number of different universities across Southeast Asia. And then you mentioned that there are new leaders coming up through that network. Do you keep a lot of tabs on some of those students that are going through these trainings, and kind of have you seen where they end up in terms of their career paths? And is it typically, are they impacted by these trainings to go into conservation?
Yeah, we do. In the past, we have done 3 gatherings of our alumni. We organize it similar to a symposium style. We invited the people we trained before, so that and let them present about the work they did following the training they received. We did that alumni workshop 3 times during the year already. We have other means to keep communication with them. We have Facebook. We have group that set up for them to interact with each other, sharing their story, their information. Of course, we were not able to keep track of all more than 600 people we work with, but we try it as much as we can. And we have some very active person at each of the member university, and they can help to the network to reach out to not just the people who involved with our activity, but a wider group or wider community at each of the universities. So whenever there's a new project come up or a new opportunity, and the people who involved with us before didn't have the skill or the experience to participate in new activity, they may interview some other people in their university. Yeah, we do keep a good tab on that.
Yes, keep good tabs.
And that's a fun thing to do as well.
Yes, definitely. Wonderful. So another question that we have is, what is the approximate size of the Saras population in each of the Southeast Asian countries? How is the Saras population doing?
I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, there's 3 subspecies of Saras crane. The Indian subspecies, the number may be somewhere between 10 to 20,000. It's a big group. The second big one is in Australia. We don't know exactly, but probably between 5 to 10,000 or even more. The subspecies in Southeast Asia is very, very small, and they are facing a lot of problems, mostly habitat loss and also higher mortality for the adult crane. In Vietnam and Cambodia, that one population, the number now may be less than 200. They went down from about 1,000, 30 years ago to 200 now. So it's a very rapid decline in the population. The population in Myanmar, the second population, the size probably somewhere between 400 to 600 Karen, and 90% of them live in the Irrawaddy Delta. Data the past 5 years or so show that their number, even though they are small, the population seems to be stable at that small size. But we worry very much for their future because of the rapid change that might happen to their habitat. So that we are working to find way to preserve the floating rice area, the farmland, the rice farmland that Crane are living on, to try to preserve those habitat. This is a big challenge, but we're working on that approach. There's another population that I mentioned briefly, that the reintroduced population in Thailand. Thailand has Sarus crane before, but it went extinct maybe 50, 60 years ago. And the last 10 years, Thailand released crane from their captive population. And by now, we may have about 120 to 150 Sarus crane that reintroduced in Thailand. And that population began to reproduce by itself. So this is a very encouraging story, a good program in Thailand.
Yes, wonderful. Perfect. So someone asked, how do you work within cooperation with governing entities in the various countries? Does the government play a role at all in working with universities and doing these trainings?
It depends on the project. Some project we need to partner directly with the government. For example, our work at Crane site, usually those protected area in the country of Southeast Asia, country in Vietnam, Cambodia. They are protected area. They are managed by the government. So to work at those sites, we need to partner directly with the government. For other activity, for example, training, research, we do not need to work directly with the government. We work with our university member. But of course, the government always play a role. So simply, if you want to go to do field research, you need a permission from the local authority. And in those cases, the university will handle that kind of interaction. You know, they work with their authority to get permission that needed for the study. Even some local government or local offices, they may have resources that they can provide to our research program or other conservation program. Yeah, there are a lot of support coming from government as well at different levels, whether that national level or local, provincial, or even at village level. We only got, you know, some support from authority, government.
Great. Another question is kind of extending far beyond the Mekong network and working with universities in Southeast Asia. Someone asked, are these trainings limited to Asia, or are there ones in Africa and in Zambia that can particularly benefit within ICF? I will say that we do have a presence in Zambia, and we have a wonderful team in Zambia. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that at all, Trit, within being curious about trainings in Africa.
First, for the training activity of the Mekong University Network, it's not only limited to students from the region. We have students coming from the US as well, participated in those training courses. Not many, but the last several years, we only have 1-2 American students each year to join the network. That through the collaboration with Louisiana State University, there's one professor from LSU working with us very closely in the past 12 years. Every year he comes and help with the training activity. He's a hydrologist expert. So he's teaching hydrology component in our training, and through that connection, he brings students from United States to join the network. We have students from New Zealand, from Japan, Korea before joining our activity. The second part of that question related to similar activity in other geographical region where ICF working. We are interested in developing similar network in Africa, and we still exploring how to create that network in Africa. We work with many countries in Africa. Yeah, we have an interest in developing similar structure in Africa. Over in East and Southeast Asia, of course, we have China joined this network already. And within Asia, we are creating another network. It's not focusing on education and training, but more directly to Saurus crane conservation. We have a network of Saurus crane conservation across the species range from Pakistan to India, Nepal, Southeast Asian country, and Australia. That network now grow to more than 100 members already and still growing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. And I will also just say half the battle, I feel like, is just knowing that conservation jobs are out there. When I went to college, I didn't know that conservation was an option. So if you know young people that want to get into conservation, half the battle is just knowing there's resources out there. So that's great. Thank you, Trip. Great. Someone asked regarding Myanmar, what do you know about the impacts, if there are any, of the coup on conservation of wetlands in the area? Was there any direct impacts of the coup in Myanmar on Saurus cranes?
It has severe impact on people like that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who lost their job in urban area because of both the pandemic and the security reason. They had to return to their home villages to live. And that placed more pressure on the environment surrounding villages. Our monitoring data show that there are more incidents of egg being stolen from nests. So you may say that an indicator of impacts. But on the bigger picture, I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we are trying to preserve the traditional rice farming system. We call it floating rice. It's growing on land that flooded for a long periods of time, a year, and farmer can only grow one crop of rice. But both the government and at various level, and even at the community, they want to grow more rice. So for a very simple reason, if they grow more, they earn more. That's a very legitimate desire. But if that has not been done in the right way, it may destroy habitat, not just for crane, but for many other species that coexist in that farming ecosystem. So we're trying to find a way to balance the development and the need of wildlife. What happened following the coup is that because of all of the uncertainty and all of the problem with security, much of the development is now on hold. So in order to do intensive farming, you need to develop an irrigation system. Myanmar will need a lot of financial support from the international finance institution, World Bank, ADB, for example, to invest in modern agriculture. But because of the coup, all of that is on hold right now. So if we look at the big picture, it's like we are getting some extra time trying to figure out how to deal with this problem. So yeah, there are both negative impact for sure. That's very true, and also there's something that can benefit. You know, the best of it is to buy us some more time trying to figure out how to deal with all of the player that involved with this.
Yes. Great, thank you. Another question we have is related to students getting involved in these trainings. Are the student costs for attending these trainings subsidized? How much does it cost for a student to usually participate?
Free
Free.
for all of them. So it's a big job for us, but for the student, free. We raise all of the money needed to organize the training. And even though it's very cost effective, but still there were costs, and the average cost for each student to participate in that regional training, usually it runs for 3 weeks, and equivalent of 3 graduate credit at the university. The average cost is about $1,000 US. This is pretty cheap compared to standard here. And every training course, we have about 20 students for each training course, 20 to 25 maximum. So we need to raise about $30,000 for the training program each year. And we have done it the past 20 years.
That's amazing. Great. We have a question here that's related to invasive species, since you mentioned that's a key component of helping healthy wetlands in Southeast Asia. What are some of the impacts of invasive species on Saros cranes and these wetland habitats? I know you had 4 different target species. Can you talk a little bit about their impacts that you've seen?
The last study, we focused on 4 most important invasive species: the Mimosa picra, or giant mimosa water hyacinth with the aquatic plant, the apple snail, and the catfish, the sucker mouth catfish. Among the 4, Mimosa picra, or giant mimosa, had the biggest impact on Saros crane, because it's occupied the places where crane use crane habitat. I can give an example. Tram Chim National Park in the Mekong River Delta in Vietnam is the most important site for Saros crane in Vietnam. There was once before when the park was covered, 1/3 of the park was covered by mimosa. Can you imagine? And probably 90% of the habitat of Saros crane at Tram Chim National Park were occupied by mimosa. And mimosa is a tall shrub. It can grow like 5 meters tall, 15 feet tall, and densely. So once mimosa cover the ground, there's no way that crane can come. So it's very clear impact with the Saros crane. And not just Saros crane, we work in African country, in Zambia, and mimosa cover a large area in the Kafue Flat. And but very good in the past few years, we implement a very successful program to eradicate mimosa at Kafue Flat in Zambia. And data show that after the wetland was clear of mimosa, crane and other wildlife come back quickly.
Great. Yeah, it's a same problem. I can't imagine trying to eradicate that. And we do have a question also related to invasive species of where do some of these invasive species come from? Is that data kept where, how did it get to the area?
Mimosa picra and water hyacinth, their homeland is in South America. And they now invasive species almost everywhere in the world outside of their native range. Apple snail, probably from Africa. The catfish, the sucker mouth catfish, also coming from South America. It's a worldwide problem now, invasive species. And within the Southeast Asia region, particularly the Mekong River catchment, those species travel with water. Mimosa picra had a lot of seeds, and those seeds can float on water. So when the flood water of the Mekong move from upstream downstream, so do all of the seeds of Mimosa picra travel with water. So it's not problem of any single country, it's a regional problem. Similarly, water hyacinth also float on water surface, and we will move with water. And apple snail, of course, they live in water, and the fish also live in water. So, and in the Mekong region, the Mekong River catchment, the whole catchment was connected then by a dense network of waterway, river, stream, canal. So you can imagine it occurred at one place, very soon later it will be everywhere.
Yes. Great, thank you. We have another question about trainings that are available, and I'm curious if there's a way people can learn more about how to get involved in trainings or to participate, because someone asked, are there any trainings available in the Philippines?
Oh, Philippines, not very far from where we work, our neighbor. I guess we can, for those who asked that question, then maybe they have some specific interest, we can forward to them the contact information so that they can contact the people who run the program. And when we have a new training activity, we can inform. And the network has a website, so we can put the announcement on our website and Facebook page. So everyone will learn about those new opportunities and a new activity, not just training, but maybe exchanging idea of how to create new regional collaboration program in research or in other conservation activity. Yeah, we can send the contact information. And as I said, we post the new activity on our website and Facebook page.
Great. Yeah, if you just, what is the website? Are you able to say that, Trit, or Facebook page? And I can put it in the chat. Do you know it off the top of your head? If not, we can post it after this. So people can look for it.
After,
okay,
yeah.
Wonderful.
On this screen, I cannot get to my other.
No worries.
Yeah.
Great.
We will send them.
Yes. Another question here about climate change. Does climate change, sea level rise, have an impact to the crane species and your project, or what impacts are you seeing already in these areas?
Huge impacts. The eastern shores in Vietnam, in Myanmar, and in Thailand, they all located very close to the sea. Their main sites are very close to the sea. So they will be impacted by sea level rise, and not just by the rising of the water, but more importantly, the changing in salinity. So even though they live close to the ocean, their habitat usually freshwater habitat. And with the rising of the sea level, the tidal impact will reach further inland. So the freshwater become more saline, and that the most important direct impact on climate change. And of course, there are more frequency of severe drought that will affect the water availability, and that will change the vegetation. We have seen that more higher frequency of forest fire that may destroy the breeding habitat in northern Cambodia, and so on and so forth. So climate change had huge impact on the Sarus crane in the eastern Sarus crane population in Southeast Asian country.
Great, thank you. And we'll have one more question here. We'll kind of end on a fun one. Trit, what is the most challenging part about working in a wetland habitat? Or I guess what's your favorite part about working in wetlands?
Every year when we did our regional training, the last day of the training is the day and we feel more satisfied for the only reason that no accident had happened. Because you work with a group of young people, very high energy. They want to jump in the river to swim. They want to do a lot of crazy things. And we work in wetland environment. We never know, we can never manage on the risk that may happen in the field. And for the past 20 years, we have never had any accident. And I think it's a very blessing, wonderful blessing that we receive. So safety is the most important issue that we concern about. We take safety seriously. But as I said, we also work with young people with a lot of energy and want to have fun.
That's a great note to end on. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Trent. We can do the last couple of slides and wrap it up.
Okay. Again, we would like to thank Karen for your support, Karen. If you are out there, thank you very much. For those of you who want to learn more about sponsoring our webinar, please contact Kate Fitzwilliams at the number and the email address on the screen. We would love to hear from you. I would like to introduce our next webinar, which will be on March 31st at 11 a.m. Central Time. We're going to talk, our colleague, Dr. Gary Ivey from California will talk about the conservation of sandhill crane on the west coast of the United States. Please join this webinar to learn about this wonderful sandhill crane in Western United States. That's it. Thank you very much. And ICF is a member organization. All of the work that we have done or will be doing, thanks to the support from all our members. So we take this up. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all ICF members for your wonderful support. We would like to welcome you in our next webinar. Thank you.